Galafana! Ah!
Galafana, order, arms. Galafana, standard, east. Galafana, Galafana, shun. Galafana, standard, east. Galafana, Galafana, shun. Galafana, standard, east. Galafana, Galafana, Garafana Standard East. Kanafana, Sean. Garafana, Standard Ace. Kanafana, Sean. Garafana, Standard Ace. Kanafana, Sean. Garafana, Standard Ace. Garafana, Sean. Garafana, Standard Ace. Garafana, Sean. Garafana, Standard Ace. Garafana, Sean. Garafana, Standard Ace. Kanafana, Sean. Garafana, Standard Ace. God of honor, Sean. God of honor, shoulder, arms. God of honor, general salute, present, arms. God of honor, shoulder, arms. God of honor, order, arms. Good morning, Madam Chief Justice.
Good morning, Inspector Martinez.
I'm Christopher Martinez, Inspector of Police. Present, we have 17 members of the Special Patrol Unit who forms today's Guard of Honor. Can you kindly inspect them for me, ma'am, please?
Thank you, Inspector. Thank you.
Madam Chief Justice, I'm hereby request that the parade, to carry on the parade. God of honor, shoulder, arms. God of honor, general salute, present, arms. Guard of honor, shoulder, arms. Guard of honor, order, arms. Madam Chief Justice, I hereby kindly ask your approval to march the parade past and off.
Inspector, thank you for an excellent parade and permission is granted. Thank you.
Guard of honor, shoulder, arms. Guard of honor, in, close, order, right, dress.
Move on. Step backward. Steady. Carry on the line. Last one. Just backward. Steady. Stand still. Stand still. The front track. Colorado. Ah!
The parade will march past and off. Move to the right in files. Right, turn. By the left. Quick, march.
In the High Court of Belize, AD 2024.
Your Excellency, Governor General Dame Froida Salam, Honorable Prime Minister Mr. John Bassino, Leader of the Opposition, Honorable Mr. Moses Shine Barrow, Honorable President of the Court of Appeal, Millet Hafiz Bertram, Honorable Justices of Appeal, Honorable Justices of the High Court, Honorable Attorney General Mr. Anthony Sylvester, Your Excellencies and members of the Diplomatic Corps, President of the Bar Association, Mr. Andrew Marshall, Senior Counsel, Solicitor General Ms. Alyssa Montalvo, Learned Director of Public Prosecutions, Mrs. Sherry Lynn Vidal, Senior Counsel, Registrar and Deputy Registrars of the Senior Courts, Chief Magistrate, Senior Magistrates, and other magistrates, Director of the Belize Family Court, Learned Senior Counsel of the Inner Bar, Learned Counsel of the Outer Bar, members of the clergy, Commissioner of Police, Mr. Chester Williams, and officers of the Belize Police Force, law officers of the Crown, commissioners of the High Court, justices of the peace, staff of the Senior Courts of Belize and the Magistracy, members of the media, citizens and residents of Belize, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I am pleased to welcome you to this special sitting to mark the commencement of the law year 2024. 1 year ago, I had the pleasure of delivering my first address as Chief Justice. 1 year on, it remains my distinct privilege to deliver these remarks at this sitting. The opening of the law year is a significant occasion in the calendar of the Senior Courts of Belize, as it provides us with the opportunity to reflect on our progress over the past year and to share with you our plans for the future. I will start by briefly speaking to the legislative reforms. In last year's address, I acknowledged the visionary work of the former Attorney General, Mrs. Magali Marwin-Yang Senior Counsel, and the government of Belize in the enactment of the Senior Courts Act. The Act modernized and reformed the Supreme Court and the Court of Appeal to a unified court system, now referred to as the Senior Courts of Belize. This reform has been transformative and undergirds the independence of the judiciary. The Act has comprehensively streamlined the judiciary in Belize. In addition to the creation of a number of new positions in the senior courts, the Act created a structure which is akin to the structure which exists in other jurisdictions, such as the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court. Challenge facing our courts. It is common knowledge that the justice system in Belize was beset with many challenges, and the delay in access to justice remains a serious issue. It was therefore important that judicial reforms complement the legislative reform which has taken place. In this regard, I briefly allude to some of the main difficulties faced throughout the past year and indicate the many tangible outcomes of the judicial reforms that have been set in motion. It is no secret that the senior courts face mounting backlogs, which created significant impediments to providing timely, efficient, and effective access to justice. Indeed, the backlogs were severe and crippling. Morale throughout the judiciary was enervated, and public confidence in the delivery of justice was low. The physical conditions of courtrooms and offices were unfit for their purpose. The untimely delivery of judgments was unsatisfactory in a few cases, with matters taking years to be completed. The systems in the registry were not as efficient as they ought to have been. There was therefore immediate need to implement measures aimed at rectifying these difficulties in order to enhance the delivery of justice. Some of the measures taken include, first, robust case management is now being conducted in criminal and civil cases with increased efficiency. Second, the increased use of the sentencing indications has been encouraged and has led to the disposal of criminal matters without trial. Third, there is more stringent adjournment policy, which has led to increased trial and hearing dates certainty in both criminal and civil courts. Fourth, increased reliance is now being placed on alternative dispute resolution methodologies, including court-connected mediation, which is now widely used in civil cases. Fifth, there is a stringently implemented zero-tolerance policy for long outstanding judgments. As a general rule, judgments are expected to be delivered within 6 months. Sixth, more efficient systems and processes have been adopted in the court registries. Complement of justices. In my last address, I noted the high degree of attrition which obtained in our judiciary. Our inability to attract lawyers who possess the requisite years of experience and required skills for a judicial office created a significant impediment in filling some of these positions. This was further exacerbated by the poor terms and conditions of service associated with judicial posts. The lack of judicial officers nearly resulted in the collapse of the Civil Division of the High Court. In the past year, the government of Belize, after steadfast, respectful, and determined advocacy by the judiciary, recognized that any developed and vibrant democracy must have an effective and efficient judiciary. They took positive steps which improved the conditions of the judiciary significantly, and which ultimately led to the courts being able to attract a full complement of suitable justices. This, together with the new policies relating to adjournments, judgment writing, and the additional judicial staff, has resulted in the remarkable reduction of the backlog and the more timely disposal of cases. The effect of this improvement in judicial efficiency will positively impact development in Belize and its economic growth. The expectation is that during this year, we will be able to further overcome most of the lingering obstacles. We are therefore grateful for the insight and the cooperation of the executive towards the improvement of the judiciary and sincerely thank them. Judicial officers. At the beginning of 2023, the Criminal Division of the High Court was presided over by 3 judicial officers, Honorable Mr. Justice Herbert Lord, Honorable Madam Justice Antoinette Moore, and Honorable Mr. Justice Francis Calabash. Their valuable contributions and unswerving commitment to our justice system are duly acknowledged with deep appreciation. Honorable Mr. Justice Ricardo Suncroft, who joined them during 2023, has come to the end of his tenure. We thank him for his service and wish him well. You will no doubt recall that at the beginning of 2023, there were no permanent justices in the Civil Division of the High Court. Thankfully and helpfully, Honorable Justice Farnes and Honorable Justice Chabot agreed to remain in service to the judiciary for 1 year to assist the senior courts in its civil division. Later in the year, very experienced lawyers, Honorable Madam Alexander and Honorable Mr. Pilgrim, joined the civil and criminal divisions respectively. All of the justices have demonstrated exceptional commitment. Their sacrifices and service to Belize are noteworthy. They have all worked assiduously in addressing the backlogs and have completed an impressive number of cases in very short order. However, given the significant backlog of cases both in the civil and criminal division of our courts, the complement of justices was still insufficient to effectively clear all of the long outstanding cases, some of which dated back over 10 years. In order to improve judicial capacity, in September 2023, we welcomed 4 experienced and very qualified lawyers to the High Court. They are Mr. Rajiv Guntaliki, Deputy Solicitor General of Sri Lanka. He has 3 Masters of Laws degrees and 25 years experience at the bar. Ms. Nadi Nabi, Acting Deputy Solicitor General of Trinidad and Tobago. She has 27 years at the bar. Ms. Candice Nanton, Public Defender from Trinidad and Tobago. She is an achieving scholar who possesses a Master of Laws degree and has 15 years at the bar. And Mrs. Natalie Crary Dixon, Parish Judge of Jamaica. She possesses a Master of Laws degree and has 70 years experience at the bar. So far, they have maintained the excellent standards set by their colleagues and are working well. Justice Lord's retirement. On the 9th of December 2023, we bid farewell to our dedicated colleague, Honorable Mr. Justice Herbert Lord, who recently attained the constitutionally mandated age of retirement. We sincerely thank him for his 55 years of committed public service and service to the judiciary. We extend our thanks to his dear wife and family for sharing him with us. Mr. Justice Lord, we wish you continued blessings and a very happy retirement. I take this opportunity once again to implore brilliant Belizean attorneys at law to offer their services to the high offices of the senior courts. Completion of contracts. We also thank Honorable Justice Farnes and Honorable Justice Chabot for their industry and output as they leave us on the conclusion of their contracts. They have been conscientious. We recently welcomed 3 additional justices to the High Court bench. They are Mr. Derek Sylvester, a seasoned practitioner at the Civil and Criminal Bars of Grenada with 22 years call. Dr. Tawanda Hondura, who possesses a Doctor of Philosophy in Law and was head of Rule of Law at the Commonwealth Secretariat. And Mr. Raphael Morgan, Deputy Chief Public Defender of Trinidad and Tobago. He has practiced at the Civil and Criminal Bars and has 16 years call. Together, the newly appointed justices, on an average, bring 2 decades of legal experience and demonstrated integrity, character, and diligence. They, with their more experienced justices, constitute a formidable team, and we look forward to the impact they will have on improving our judicial services to all litigants. The positive responses from the bar have indicated that they are pleased with the bench. Despite inherited difficulties, 2023 was a highly productive year for the senior courts. It is evident that the senior courts have made great strides in improving the provision of judicial services over the last year. As alluded to, we have disposed of a great percentage of civil and criminal cases. Looking forward, we assure you that the senior courts will continue to serve the public with greater effectiveness while taking steps to improve how we treat court users. We will continue to place a high priority on and intensify our efforts to provide increased access to justice and on enhancing our court's ability to serve the public. Our annual report will provide you with the details of an extremely high clearance rate of cases over the last year. Also, the courts have formulated and implemented a 3-year strategic plan to further improve the efficiency and effectiveness of our courts and registry. The strategic plan identifies new and improved policies and measures geared towards enhancing our judicial system and, importantly, the service that the senior courts provide to the litigants and the people of Belize. The increased use of technology is endorsed to support efficiency and save resources, ultimately improving the senior court's accessibility and effectiveness in delivering justice. By also providing better customer service to all litigants, the hope is that trust and confidence in our courts can be fully restored. I am satisfied that once the senior courts are properly resourced and proper administrative support is provided to us, there is potential for the backlogs to be effectively eliminated within the next 2 years. While the Senior Courts Act provides for an efficient judicial framework and creates new positions within the judiciary for the efficient running of our courts, there is need for adequate human resources in the area of administration. In this regard, there is urgent need for an executive court administrator and eventually the establishment of a dedicated court administration department. It is impossible for the registrar to effectively perform her myriad legal duties while attending to the court administration functions of the senior courts. This was quite wisely recognized by the former Attorney General. Now, more than ever before, this is a necessity in any modern and efficient court. Our court is being stymied by the lack of an executive court administrator. All other judiciaries in the English-speaking Caribbean benefit from the crucial support of a court administration unit. We have operated without a court administrator for far too long, and this hinders the efficiency of our courts. The registry staff is under too much strain. I thank the present Attorney General in advance for his anticipated support, and I look forward to the appointment of an executive court administrator early this year in order to facilitate the important work of our courts. Approach to civil litigation. The approach to civil litigation has to change. It is impractical for all cases filed in the High Court to proceed to full trials. Presently, the High Court justices in the Civil Division each has approximately 90 cases, notwithstanding the very high clearance rate of backlog cases. It is impossible for any judge to conduct a full trial of 90 cases per year and produce fully reasoned judgments for each of them. In 2005, when the Supreme Court Civil Procedure Rules were promulgated in Belize, the expectation was that only 10% of the cases should go to trial and 90% resolved through alternative dispute resolution. The reality is the complete opposite. An estimated 90% of cases are going to trial, which contributes to the tremendous backlog of cases. It is therefore clear that alternative dispute resolution methods must be more widely utilized. In fact, these methods must become the first resort by litigants for resolving disputes, as anticipated by our procedural rules. In that regard, it is regrettable that the National Mediation Committee had been dormant for over 2 years. With a paradigm shift and moving away from the prevailing culture of heavy litigation to an increased reliance on alternative dispute resolution, the National Alternative Dispute Resolution Committee, formerly referred to as the National Mediation Committee, has been resuscitated. And happily, there is great enthusiasm and support from both the private and the public bars for the increased use of alternative methods of resolving disputes without going to trial. This is to be encouraged. The effective functioning of a modern and proficient court also necessitates an increased reliance on information communication technology. The senior courts continue to express their gratitude to the former Attorney General, Mrs. Magali Marion Young, Senior Counsel, and the forward-thinking government of Belize for their proactive roles in implementing the e-filing and e-litigation systems. The imperative of full digitization remains paramount in our court's quest to enhance judicial service. While progress has been made, we acknowledge that further and substantial enhancement in our IT capacities are essential for greater court accessibility and to facilitate the more effective and efficient dispensation of justice. We thank our systems administrator, Mr. Stephen Babb, for his unswerving support. We acknowledge the incremental improvements made so far. In 2024, we hope to expand our IT capabilities by harnessing technology to further improve our court's efficiency and effectiveness. Last year, we provided IT training to our dedicated officer, Mr. Babb, as well as to Honorable Madam Justice Nanton and Honorable Madam Justice Perry Dixon and Deputy Registrar Ms. Rowley. We also intend to provide IT training opportunities for all staff members and to increase the number of IT personnel within our courts. We also acknowledge the important support of Mr. Ryan Waite, System Administrator, in this regard. We recognize the need for intensive and external training for our justices, registrars, magistrates, and the general staff. Towards this end, we have established, as promised, the Judicial Education Institute of the Senior Courts of Belize, which is the first of its kind in Belize. The JEI will play a crucial role in providing training to the judges, magistrates, the private and public bar, the registrars, and administrative staff, and together with justices of the peace. Judicial education undergirds judicial reform, and the important role the JEI will play in the development and progress of the judiciary cannot be overstated. I'm happy to report that a few short days ago, our JEI successfully provided training to our court marshals, which I understand was very well received. Recognizing the need for training, last September, the Office of the Chief Justice organized a comprehensive orientation training program for the newly appointed High Court justices, which was the first of its kind in Belize. The feedback received was overwhelmingly positive. At the opening ceremony of the orientation, we were delighted to have been graced by the presence of Her Excellency the Governor General, Dame Froila Salam. Honorable Prime Minister Mr. John Briceño delivered the feature address. Additionally, Honorable Attorney General Mr. Sylvester and the former Attorney General Mrs. Magali Marion Young, Senior Counsel, were present. The President of the Bar Association, Mr. Andrew Marjanek, Senior Counsel, also delivered remarks. The orientation program had an impressive faculty headed by Mr. Justice Vincent Anderson, Judge of the Caribbean Court of Justice. Contributing also were from the Judiciary of Trinidad and Tobago, Justices of Appeal, Honorable Madam Alice York Suhan, Honorable Mr. Mark Mohammed, Honorable Madam Jillian Lucky, and Honorable Mr. Vahis Kokaram. Honorable Madam Justice Vicky Ann Ellis and Honorable Mr. Justice Trevor Ward, who are both Justices of Appeal of the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court, and Honorable Madam Justice Vinette Graham Allen from the Supreme Court of Jamaica. The curriculum included topics such as active case management for criminal trials and civil cases, pleas and evidence, jury orientation and selection, pretrial review for civil cases, judgment writing versus justice delay, judicial settlement in civil cases, judicial leadership, wellness and judicial ethics, judicial independence and recusal. From all accounts, the orientation training program was timely and enlightening. It would be remiss of me if we did not acknowledge the valuable and unwavering support of our international agencies and partners. Over the past year, we were the grateful beneficiaries of the general support of the INL and the United States Embassy in Belize and the United Nations Development Program. In February 2023, our courts received a magnanimous donation of $600,000 United States dollars worth of equipment, computers, and furniture through Professor Velma Newton of the Impact Justice Program. This large donation allowed us to share our equipment and furniture and computers with the magistracy and the family court. We are pleased that our international partners have also provided much needed funding and sponsorship for training opportunities for all of the High Court judges, registrars and deputy registrars, and for Mr. Babb. For this, we are very grateful. Our international partners have shown a high level of confidence in and support of the Senior Courts of Belize and the justice system. There is no doubt that once the senior courts are able to recruit and provide appropriate human resources, our valued international partners and agencies will continue to support us through training and other resources. In November 2023, together with the Honorable Mr. Justice Cumberbatch and Honorable Mr. Justice Pilgrim, I was afforded the opportunity to attend the United Nations Development Program and the European Union's launch of the PACE Justice Project on criminal justice reform, which coincided with the CCJ Academy for Law 7th Biennial Conference in Barbados. Thanks are extended for the gracious support of the UNDP and the CCJ Academy for Law in facilitating our participation in the highly successful and vital launch and conference. The CCJ Academy for Law conference was held under the theme, Criminal Justice Reform, Achieving a Modern Criminal Justice System. Not only was this conference timely and illuminating, but it was also a resounding success. The conference brought together pivotal criminal justice stakeholders across the Caribbean, including prime ministers, judges of the Caribbean Court of Justice, chief justices, attorneys general, regional and international judicial officers, magistrates, directors of public prosecutions, commissioners of police, law enforcement officials, and attorneys at law. The intent was to engage in comprehensive discussions addressing prevailing issues within the criminal justice system to seek to identify areas for improvement and devise pragmatic solutions to address the persisting challenges in the region. The high point of the conference was the formal adoption of the Needham's Point Declaration, which encapsulated and endorsed criminal justice best practices with a specific focus on improving access to justice and the delivery of justice throughout the Caribbean. The Needham Points Declaration will form an integral component of the Senior Courts Reform Program for the upcoming year. As a first step to the implementation of the declaration, we have established Belize's first criminal justice board. The board brings together all of the stakeholders in the criminal justice system. It seeks to operationalize and monitor compliance with the Needham Points Declaration. One imperative of the declaration was the formation of a multi-sectoral and interdisciplinary approach to criminal justice. The Criminal Justice Board is an ideal forum for the cross-fertilization of perspectives to enhance the criminal justice system in Belize. Through the operationalization of the recommendation of the Needham Points Declaration. It will also serve to monitor the accomplishment of most of the Needham Points Declaration's recommendation. The expectation is that within 2 years, the criminal justice system in Belize will be transformed and access to the delivery of justice improved. A further area of focus by the board will be to address the burning issue of the timely receipt of social inquiry reports and psychological reports to facilitate the speedier sentencing of convicted persons in criminal cases. Last year, I also attended the highly successful Conference of the Chief Justices and the Heads of Judiciary of the Caribbean, hosted by the Judiciary of Trinidad and Tobago. The heads of judiciary participated in many important discussions on various topics, including mental wellness, judicial independence, and court administration. We also benefited from a tour of the Trinidad and Tobago courts, which focused on their state-of-the-art capabilities. There were many lessons learned at the conference, which we hope to implement in the coming years to further strengthen our courts. It is essential to speak some more about the backlogs. During the past year, 232 dormant ordinary claims in the Civil Division of the High Court were uncovered as a consequence of our internal audit. They have since been disposed of. Judges in the Criminal Division also have very exacting workloads. However, robust case management is being utilized to streamline issues and eliminate non-viable cases. It is also expected that new tools such as plea discussion hearings will be placed at judges' disposal to assist in the expeditious resolution of cases. The High Court justices have succeeded in reducing backlogs in the Criminal Division. 1 year on, most of the justices have reduced their caseload by 50%. Many trials have been completed, and I commend the justices for their hard work and commitment as they continue to serve Belize very well. In the Criminal Division, I make special mention of the efficient work of the learned Director of Public Prosecutions and defense lawyers. However, there is an urgent need for more defense attorneys at the criminal bar, and I take this opportunity to encourage attorneys at law to accept this invitation, take up the mantle, and play an active part in ensuring an efficient criminal justice system. Justices of the Criminal Division are working assiduously to clear their criminal cases that are older than 2 years. They are hearing cases and delivering judgments in a timely fashion, but they cannot do it alone. Both the prosecution and a fully manned defense bar must play their part. There are simply too few lawyers at the defense bar. Also, I cannot ignore the fact that the remand population remains unacceptably high. I visited the Central Prison and noted that several young people are among the detainees there. In Belize, it is not unusual for persons to have to wait in excess of 8 years for a trial. This is highly unsatisfactory and is being addressed as a matter of priority. Our justices in the Criminal Division continue to work tirelessly, and they are committed to ensuring that no case takes in excess of 2 years to be disposed. Additionally, as a result of self-audit, 374 dormant appeals have been uncovered, some dating as far back as 2013. They have all been assigned to civil and criminal high court justices. This is in addition to their onerous active dockets, with each judge scheduling status hearings in the dormant appeals with a view to clearing them urgently. Most of the inferior appeals have been completed. The Court of Appeal, too, was not immune from backlogs. There are a number of outstanding appeals dating as far back as 2017. The major challenge faced by the Court of Appeal is the lack of transcripts. Poor recording of High Court proceedings further compound the issue. There is an urgent need for more stenographers, as well as a need for a more efficient system of recording the proceedings in the High Court, which would enable the preparation of records of appeal and facilitate the timely disposal of appeals from the High Court. The continued cooperation from attorneys at law is essential. In November 2023, as part of a lecture series titled Law Talks by the Bar Association of Belize, I urge attorneys at law to assist with the preparations of records of appeal by using their notes from proceedings to settle the records and to facilitate timely hearings, especially where recordings and transcripts are unavailable or where the quality of the audio recordings was poor. Despite these challenges, the conscientiousness of the Court of Appeal justices in dealing with the backlog deserves commendation. The implementation of status hearings in the Court of Appeal has assisted this process. I thank all of the appellate justices for their unswerving dedication. The registry. There were numerous complaints concerning the registry. The registry is the engine room of the senior court and is vital to the efficient functioning of our courts. I wish to thank Madam Registrar General Young, Madam Deputy Registrars Duncan, and Madam Deputy Registrar Rowley, as well as the dedicated staff of the registry, for their efforts despite their limited human resources. The registry staff, as indicated, they're inundated with work. The Senior Courts Act, in recognizing the creation of a new structure, extends its reach to the registry, which needs to be modernized and properly staffed. All staff of the registry require further training and cross-training to fully support the improvement of our court. Of note is the fact that our courts are moving towards a paperless system in which technology will be more heavily utilized. Proper staffing and training of the registry in information technology is therefore of highest priority. Additionally, there is an urgent need to increase the complement of administrative staff to support the registry so that it is equipped to address the ever-increasing number of new matters being filed and to support the technological improvements of our senior courts. I am pleased to announce that the registry is currently undergoing further digitization. A fully digitized registry is expected to be operational within the next few months. Section 17 of the Senior Courts Act provides for judicial assistance to support the justices. Their main roles include researching and preparing draft judgments to improve the timely preparation of judgments and strengthen our judiciary. In August 2023, we welcomed two judicial assistants, Ms. Danielle Bullen and Ms. Kemba Godson-Phillips. The Office of the Chief Justice organized an orientation training program for them. Additional judicial assistants are urgently required to support the justices with judgment, writing, and research, so as to ensure the continued reduction of backlog of cases and to maintain the timely delivery of judgments. Justices are working very hard, but they require support. I invite qualified Belizeans to apply to be part of the senior courts and to serve as judicial assistants. The Office of the Chief Justice welcomed 4 Belizean law students to its internship program last summer. We commend the interns for their excellent attitude and work ethic. We are pleased with their interest in our courts. We invite Belizean law students to apply for this year's summer's program with the senior courts. And we also invite them to serve as judicial assistants. They will find the experience worthwhile. The committees. As I had promised last year, various committees have been established to assist our courts in achieving its work and to implement our reforms. I will briefly discuss each committee. The Sentencing Guidelines Committee. Presently, there are no sentencing guidelines in Belize, and there is some disquiet about sentencing. Therefore, a Sentencing Guidelines Committee was established. The expectation is that by providing the necessary guidance through the guidelines, there will be consistent, proportional, and equitable approaches to sentencing. Major complaints about sentencing disparities should be reduced once the guidelines are followed, and it can also lead to the increase in the disposition of cases without a trial. The Civil Procedure Rules Revision Committee. The Civil Procedure Rules Revision Committee has been established to revise the Supreme Court rules, which were formulated in 2005. There are numerous decisions of our senior courts which highlight the need to review the rules. The review and revision of our rules will contribute to the development of our Belizean jurisprudence. Judicial ethics and reform. Our Code of Judicial Conduct and Etiquette has not been modernized since it was promulgated in 2005. There is a pressing need to provide guidelines for social media usage for judicial officers and for registrars, magistrates, and other court users. The Judicial Ethics Reform Committee has been established to address emerging issues of ethical conduct and responsibility. Website Modernization Committee. We have established the Website Modernization Committee. The senior courts are aware of the numerous and justifiable complaints about our outdated website. This committee is dedicated to modernizing our court's website, making it more user-friendly and enabling easier case searches by lawyers and other court users. It will also seek to ensure that the public is adequately and regularly informed of our court's accomplishments and events. I would like to acknowledge the full support and active participation of Honorable Madam President Minette Hafiz Bertram and the Honorable Justices of the Court of Appeal and the High Court on these committees. Special appreciation is extended to the dedicated attorneys at law, both at the public and private bar, who have generously volunteered their services on these committees and thereby demonstrate their commitment to improving access to justice. The High Court justices have willingly accepted position on 2 or 3 committees, reflecting their exemplary commitment to providing efficient service to Belize. All of the committees have commenced work. It is right that I acknowledge that in July 2023, the Office of the Chief Justice extended a warm welcome to the newly appointed Honorable Attorney General Anthony Sylvester. The Office of the Chief Justice and the Justices of the Senior Court look forward to collaborating with his office in seeking to improve the administration of justice in Belize in general, and in particular, the criminal justice reform system. We anticipate that further requisite legislative reforms will be forthcoming to buttress our judicial reforms in service to litigants. We wish Attorney General Sylvester success in his endeavors. We must also acknowledge the excellent and indisputable support which the Bar Association of Belize continues to provide to the judiciary. Over the past year, we worked closely with the President of the Bar, Mr. Marshall Senior Counsel, the Vice President, Mr. Jose Alpuche, and the Executive of the Bar. In November last year, the Bar Association held its first session of Law Talks, and I had the privilege to be the first guest speaker. The topic of my address was entitled, "The Senior Courts of Belize and the Bar Working to Achieve Effective and Efficient Justice System." On the 18th of this month, the Judicial Education Institute of the Senior Courts of Belize and the Bar Association will jointly co-host a conference on judicial settlement in civil cases and mediation in criminal cases. This will be one of many collaborations between the bench and the bar. The way forward. I now give you a glimpse of the way forward. It is evident that even though 2023 had its challenges, it has been a successful and excellent year for the Senior Courts of Belize. We have vastly improved our service to the public. Together with the outstanding team of judicial officers and support staff, may the 2024 law year be characterized by continued onward progression, a resolute devotion to service, and improved accountability, accessibility, and effectiveness of our courts, together with the unwavering commitment to the rule of law and access to fair, efficient, and independent justice to all litigants. We will ensure that the judiciary of Belize continue in its transformation into a more efficient, customer-oriented service provider where justice is dispensed timeously. In this year, we will give quite a bit of attention to the criminal justice system. We undertake to continually review the processes required to address modern realities with a view to improving service and to intensify our efforts to strengthen the criminal division. While continuing our robust case management, we hope to be able to use early disposition tools such as plea discussions, hearings, as soon as the legislation is enacted. We look forward to partnering with UNDP and the EU in the PACE Justice Program to improve access to criminal justice in Belize. On the civil side, we will continue to introduce processes and improve case flow management to address the heavy workload expeditiously. Concerns. We recognize that the courts must collaborate with public departments, but to repeat what has been said here for many years, there is urgent need for financial and administrative autonomy to ensure our courts' independence and responsiveness to litigants. It takes too long to operationalize decisions, which requires the support of a few public departments, thereby delaying our implementation of judicial reforms. We could have made greater progress in the last year, but have been many times hindered by bureaucratic delays. This is perhaps best illustrated when it comes to the furnishing of the renovated court building. In November 2022, after the passage of Hurricane Lisa, the senior courts were displaced due to the main court building being extensively damaged. We were grateful to be relocated thanks to the intervention of the former Attorney General with little to no disruption to the operations of the senior courts. However, we remain temporarily housed at the old National Bank building, even though our accommodation is unsuitable for the provision of efficient access to justice. High Court justices and staff have worked diligently in these difficult circumstances and without complaining in serving litigants. Despite this adversity, we are resilient and we persevere to provide judicial service to litigants and the people of Belize. The government of Belize was faced with the task of effecting urgent renovations to the main court building as quickly as possible. We are pleased to indicate that the renovations to the physical structure of the main court building were completed in record time in October 2023. I wish to express my profound appreciation to the government of Belize for their assistance in generously providing financial support for the renovations of the main court building. Special thanks are especially due to the highly professional and efficient Mr. Evandale Moody, Chief Engineer, and Mr. Isaiah Chan, Contractor, for outstanding services and for expeditiously overseeing and executing the project respectively. Our judicial officers, staff, attorneys at law, and importantly, litigants are eagerly looking forward to returning to our building soon. We had hoped to have our court building ready for use in time for this opening of the new law year. However, this was not to be. We hope that the de-reservation of our allocated budgetary funds will be effected soon so that the furnishing of the renovated building can be completed. Our expectation is to be able to relocate to the Treasury building within the next 2 months, to be able to better serve the litigants and the people of Belize in a more conducive environment. In this regard, we are grateful for the kind support of the Ministry of Infrastructure, Development and Housing in agreeing to assist us in furnishing the building, since the Senior Courts of Belize do not have the personnel nor the expertise to do so. In this new era of increased productivity, our courts can ill afford the protracted delays for several months. This undermines the efficiencies of our courts. In this new year, we look forward to the continued support of all those public officials and departments who have assisted us tremendously in 2023 to enable us to continue in the transformation of our courts and improve our service. As I conclude, I recognize the contribution of all persons who have played important roles in improving the justice delivery of the Senior Courts of Belize. Firstly, it is right that I reiterate my thanks to my colleagues, the Honorable President of the Court of Appeal, Honorable Justices of Appeal, Honorable Justices of the High Court for their unwavering support and invaluable service to the public. Also, special thanks to the Registrar and Deputy Registrars and staff of the Senior Courts. I must place on record sincere gratitude to the Judicial and Legal Services Commission for their continuous professionalism and commitment to improving the justice system in Belize. Special thanks to the support staff of the Commission for their tireless assistance. The contributions from the government of Belize and our international partners and donors are worthy of special recognition. A lot of what we have accomplished in the last year could not have been possible without your valued support. We recognize the important contributions of the Chief Magistrate, the Director of the Family Courts, the Senior Magistrates, and all other magistrates. We commend the outstanding leadership of the President, the Vice President, and the members of the Executive of the Bar Association. I wish to particularly thank the Press Office of Belize and all persons who have made this virtual broadcast possible. Deep appreciation is expressed to the Commissioner of Police, Mr. Chester Williams, and the Belize Police Department for providing much needed security. Thanks are also extended to the police officers and the Belize Defense Force Band for their excellent Guard of Honor parade. Our special gratitude is extended to the Reverend Elsworth Clare, Superintendent of the Wesley Circuit, Wesley Methodist Church, for uplifting us in prayer and hosting the church service to commemorate the opening of this year law term. We are equally thankful to the other members of the clergy who participated in this inspiring church service. A special thanks to the people of Belize and the litigants whom we serve. I extend to everyone my best wishes for a highly successful year ahead. I am confident that as the senior courts continue to serve the litigants during this new year, the Almighty Lord will bless, guide, and protect us. I thank you. I now invite the President of the Bar Association, Mr. Andrew Marshall, Senior Counsel, to address the court.
Good morning to all judges of the High Court and of the Court of Appeal of Belize, friends, colleagues, and invited guests. May it please the Court, I would like to start off my brief remarks this morning by reminding of the central importance of a properly functioning judiciary in the development of the nation state. None of what I intend to say in that regard are new, nor are they in any way controversial. I state them merely to remind us of the overall context in which we do our work. And by that reference to our, I have no hesitation in including both the bench and the bar. The modern nation state confronts and addresses societal problems largely through the enactment of legislation. The enactment of such legislation is, of course, within the purview of the National Assembly. It is the interpretation and enforcement of them that are the business of our courts. In the past year, we have seen a myriad of legislation enacted. A fair number of them are designed to combat money laundering, terrorist financing, and the proliferation of weapons of mass destruction. These laws, we are told, are essential to maintaining banking relationships internationally and allowing us to participate financially in the global economy. They are passed with dizzying speed and set new complex standards for participation in the financial system. We've also seen regulations passed to penalize price gouging and to regulate the production and delivery of sugarcane and to severely penalize assaults against members of the National Assembly and public officers, among others. We now have draft legislation on the table to incentivize activities sequestering carbon and allowing for the trade of carbon credits. All of these laws rest squarely on the power of the state to penalize those who act contrary to them. I list these laws as mere examples to demonstrate not only the volume of legislation we pass each year to confront a variety of societal problems, but also their variety and complexity. And I do this to underscore the importance of an independent, competent, and efficient court system to interpret and enforce these laws if any of their noble objectives are in fact to be realized over the medium and long terms. These laws, without the institutions to support and enforce them, are but ink on paper. This was aptly demonstrated in Jamaica by Chief Justice Sykes when he publicly reminded that the passage of laws imposing harsher penalties on convicts cannot alone address crime in Jamaica when the system to detect and convict accused persons remain deficient. The same general considerations apply to our new Senior Courts Act, which last year reformed our court system. We have now experienced that system for a year, which has largely been a transitional one that saw the creation of new posts required by legislation and the revision of the terms of service of old ones to facilitate the recruitment of new persons to vacant posts. With new personnel has come a new attitude and disposition toward the work of the courts, and the seeds have been planted for a new culture of accountability to the public for judicial performance. These efforts were all intended to create courts envisioned by the reforms to deliver to Belize an independent, competent, and efficient court system and to contribute positively to national development. The private bar is largely satisfied that we are well on the right path to doing so. As the old adage goes, however, with progress comes problems. As we confronted and resolved deficiencies in the system, new ones reared their heads. In particular, the recruitment process did not produce the appointment of any Belizean national to any judicial post, and the revision of salaries and benefits to facilitate new recruitments exposed and highlighted deficiencies in existing salary structures generally. With regard to the first issue, all vacant posts are widely advertised and applications were invited from all across the Caribbean and indeed the globe. We have seen a dearth of applications from Belizean nationals. Belizean nationals cannot, of course, be considered for appointment to these posts if they choose not to apply for consideration. I wish to publicly urge all interested members of the bar to submit applications for appointment to any judicial post in which they might be interested. The need to address salaries and benefits to judicial and legal officers is well known and indeed is reflective of a more insidious problem confronting the administration of justice in Belize. That is the need for financial independence. Time has come for us to treat the financial needs of the administration of justice with the prominence it deserves. It is long time for the judiciary to manage its own budget and to seek required appropriations directly from the National Assembly without the need to become entangled in executive bureaucracy or policy. The judiciary is an independent organ of state, and judicial independence requires not only the ability to make decisions free from executive interference, but also ready access to the financial resources necessary to do so. With that said, I wish to reiterate the bar's support for the ongoing reforms and to acknowledge the gains that have been made. In doing so, however, we must also remind that there are significant problems that remain to be addressed, and to urge that we do so with a fundamental first principle firmly in mind, that is, that an independent, competent, and efficient judiciary is indispensable to national development. I would also like to remind, as Benjamin Franklin did very many years ago, and I quote, "Without continual growth and progress, such words such as improvement, achievement, and success have no meaning." Thank you.
I now invite the Honorable Attorney General, Mr. Anthony Sylvester, to move the motion for the adjournment.
Protocol having been established, with your leave and indulgence, Madam Chief Justice, it is my distinct honor to rise before this august gathering on this occasion of the opening of the legal year to move the motion for the adjournment. Madam Chief Justice, it might be lost at times of the great significance of the ceremonial opening of the legal year, preceded as it is with an economical church service. It might be lost that it is not a matter simply of pomp and circumstance, but that it is an important, significant tradition going back to the Middle Ages of judges praying for guidance at the start of the legal term. And indeed, when we consider the great duty and responsibility and trust reposed in judicial officers and attorneys, and the consequential weighty, life-changing decisions affecting the lives of citizens that are made in the courts, the need for such guidance is appreciated. It is, as well, undoubtedly a taxing duty on all, which requires some spiritual sustenance. The opening also gives, as Madam Chief Justice, you and the President before me have done, an opportunity to take stock, to survey the legal landscape, so to speak. I shall endeavor to be brief. I should firstly like to express my and the government's gratitude and appreciation to my predecessor, Mrs. Magali Marin Young, Senior Counsel, for her sterling service and the legal reforms put in place to make our courts more efficient and effective. These include the passage of the Senior Courts Act to reorganize and restructure the judiciary, amending the Constitution, and passing into law the Time Limit for Judicial Decision Act, which places the obligation on judges to give written reasons for their decisions expeditiously and no later than 180 days after the judge has given her decision, and the implementation of the digital filing system, which, amongst other things, allows for the generating of analytical data from the online case management system to track the backlog, to name a few. The positive impact of these reform measures are already bearing fruit, particularly with the clearance of backlogs in the senior courts. I should like to express as well, Madam Chief Justice, the government's gratitude and appreciation for the exemplary work that you have been doing thus far. The sheer scope of changes that are not only being proposed, but being undertaken is remarkable. The reactivation of the Civil Procedure Rules Committee, the establishment of a Criminal Justice Board, and the establishment of a Judicial Education Institute of the Senior Courts, for instance, all highlight the verve and your vision, Madam Chief Justice, of transforming the judiciary and administration of justice in Belize. Under your leadership, Madam Chief Justice, the High Court has had its largest complement of justices, and I here thank the newly appointed justices who have responded to the call of service to enhance the administration of justice in Belize. I should like as well to commend the Bar Association for its continued drive to ensure that the administration of justice is second to none, and the steps taken by the Bar Association most recently, such as the proposed changes to the Legal Profession Act and the establishment of the legal talks, highlight this. In this regard, I look forward to the Judicial Education Institute and the Bar Association's collaborative conference on judicial settlement in civil cases and criminal mediation on the 18th January. Madam Chief Justice, over the past legal year, the Attorney General's Chambers has been extremely active, drafting amendments to a number of pieces of existing legislation, coming up with new legislation in relation to areas of the law which have been prioritized by government, and drafting subsidiary legislations. A total of 54 pieces of legislation were passed by the National Assembly in 2023, and a total of 159 statutory instruments were drafted and promulgated, compared to some 31 pieces of legislation enacted and 175 statutory instruments being promulgated the previous year. Amongst these acts enacted in 2023 were a new Fiscal Incentives Act, a new Extradition Act, the Civil Asset Recovery and Unexplained Wealth Act, and the Law Revision Amendment Act. The new Fiscal Incentives Act repealed the previous act, which was enacted in 1990, and replaced it with provisions to streamline fiscal incentive programs and to, amongst other things, improve access to incentives for MSMEs. The new Extradition Act introduced provisions to simplify and expedite the procedure for extraditions and to provide for extradition to Commonwealth countries as well. May I dare say that the success rate of attorneys who practice in this area of the law may become even more dim. The Civil Asset Recovery and Unexplained Wealth Act is of special interest to the nation and our international partners. This is a comprehensive piece of legislation which provides useful tools to regulate unlawful conduct and transnational crime through the mechanism of civil recovery of assets and wealth which cannot be legitimately justified. The Law Revision Amendment Act allows for the benefit of the public the publication of an interim revised edition of the laws of Belize, where there has been the enactment of a number of acts of crucial value or importance since the law revision. Given the number of vital legislations enacted by this government since the publication of the 2020 revised edition of the laws of Belize, an interim revised edition, no doubt, will be needed shortly. Just as well, Madam Chief Justice, the Law Revision Unit commenced in 2023 the very important and significant work of the revision and publication online of the subsidiary laws of Belize. The revision and publication of all the subsidiary laws of Belize should be completed within the first quarter of 2024. Madam Chief Justice, in this coming legal year, the government will continue to push its legal reform with critical criminal justice legislative measures being enacted. These will include the enactment of a Criminal Procedure, Plea Discussion and Plea Agreement Act, and a new Alternative Sentencing Act. Draft bills were circulated to stakeholders back in October 2023, and a final set of comments were received only last week. I express my sincere appreciation to the justices of the senior courts who have provided very helpful comments to strengthen these legislative measures. These measures all are geared to address the problems of backlog in our criminal justice system. Under the proposed Criminal Procedure, Plea Discussion and Plea Agreement Act, a new regime will be created under which an accused person or suspect may engage in plea discussions or conclude a plea agreement with a prosecutor at any time before conviction, including even before charges are laid, if the accused person or suspect is represented by an attorney at law. Of course, the pleas must be freely given, and so a safeguard is inbuilt in the proposed act, making it a criminal offense for anyone to use improper inducement for the accused or suspected person to enter a plea. To ensure that an accused or suspects are not pressured into entering into plea agreements, prosecutors will be prohibited from engaging in any plea discussion or agreement with an unrepresented accused person or suspect unless the prosecutor informs that unrepresented accused person or suspect of specific rights, inter alia the right to be represented by an attorney at law. Similarly, Madam Chief Justice, the proposed Alternative Sentencing Act is premised on achieving efficiency in the criminal justice system. A vital element of an efficient criminal justice system is the availability of alternative sentences option for convicted persons, specifically those who are convicted of less serious offenses which would warrant short prison sentences. With the restrictive alternative sentences option under the existing legislation, the court has resorted to imposing custodial sentences for less serious offenses. Thus, for instance, between 2016 to 2022, over 60% of the 5,388 convicted persons serving custodial sentences at the Central Prison were convicted and imprisoned for immigration offenses and other non-violent and less serious offenses, such as non-payment of debt, fines, or maintenance orders. The bill expands the options of available alternative sentences that can be passed on convicted persons, and these will include community service orders, curfew orders, exclusion orders, conditional sentence orders, probation orders, suspended sentence, supervision orders, conditional discharge orders, intermittent sentence orders, restitution orders, and a fine option program. Of course, the invaluable yeoman's work in the criminal justice system is carried by the police, the prosecutors, and the rehabilitation officers, for which myself and the government are immensely grateful. Thank you, Commissioner and your officers, Madam Director and your cadre of Crowns, Superintendent Murillo and your officers at the prison, the folks at the Community Rehabilitation Department, and Director Cho, and his complement of scientists at the National Forensic Laboratory. Madam Chief Justice, in the new year, we will be ushering in as well reforms of how things are done in the magistracy and the family court. I pay tribute again to my predecessor, who started this process, and a draft comprehensive magistrate court bill, which included provisions for the magistracy and the family court, was circulated in the last legal year to stakeholders, and very robust consultations were held on this draft bill. Drawing from the very helpful feedback from the consultation process and the guidance from the Policy and Legislative Subcommittee of the National Committees for the Families and Children, chaired by Her Honor Justice Moore, the plan is now to have separate pieces of legislation to regulate proceedings in the magistrate court and the family court, respectively, the latter to be a specialized court. I am indebted as well to the Chief Magistrate and the magistrates, as well as the Director and the magistrates at the family court for their insightful help in the process thus far. Speaking of the family court, I can happily report that the family court is now housed at the Charles Bartlett Hyde complex. As my predecessor had reported in her address last year, the hope was to have relocated the family court to the Charles Bartlett Hyde building before the end of 2023. Since October last year, the family court, legal aid, and the vital statistics unit have been relocated to the Charles Bartlett Hyde building. And in a recent visit to the facilities, the director of the family court commented on how pleased she was with the court's new home. As she stated, "We're in a happy place." I therefore extend my gratitude and appreciation to the Ministry of Infrastructure Development and Housing team, which completed the job and did a first-rate job at that. It is that same stellar work of the MIDH team that has been deployed in retrofitting the old Treasury building, and all indications are that that building will be completed with its amenities for the use before the end of this fiscal year. Finally, Madam Chief Justice, it would be remiss of me, and perhaps a little contemptuous, if I did not record the people and government of Belize's extreme gratitude and appreciation of the service of a number of judges demitting office. Justices Chabot, Farnese, and Sancroft came to Belize back in 2021 as part of a cadre of justices gifted to us by the Commonwealth Secretariat Judicial Project. They have collectively left an indelible mark in their short stints and will be surely missed. Thank you, Your Honors, for your service and dedication to the administration of justice over the past 2 years. I dare say you will be missed by the bar. We wish you and your families continued success. I should like to as well pay special tribute to another justice demitting office, whose stint and service to the people and government of Belize has been a little longer. Justice Lord has been a household name in Belize and in judicial circles going back over 40 years, when he was first appointed as a magistrate in 1982 and later chief magistrate in 1997. His service to country and people has been even longer, going back to 1969 and his days as a public officer. If you are counting, that is more than 50 years, more than my and many of your existence on earth. Justice Lord's effervescent personality was well known among the frequent visitors of the precincts of the court, the accused, their loved ones, defense counsel, and of course, court staff. His service to country and people has been unflinching and stellar, and on behalf of the government and people of Belize, I take this opportunity to express our collective gratitude to him. I thank you, sir. Madam Chief Justice, I end with some words that was told to me recently. There are no hopeless situations, I was reminded. There are only men and women who have grown hopeless about them. The stewardship of the administration of justice is not an easy one, but there are days like these when we collectively are reminded of our purpose and the role each one of us play and must play to ensure that the administration of justice is operating at its optimal. The government is grateful for all your work. I thank you, and I move for the adjournment.
It is my privilege and pleasure to declare this law year 2024 open.